Speaker, on my birthday today, I rise to speak on the confiscation amendment Unexplained Wealth Bill of 2024, and in doing so I'd like to begin by acknowledging the good work of the Attorney-General, the Minister for Police, Minister for Community Safety, Minister for Corrections, all other relevant ministers who've brought this bill to the chamber. I'd like to also commend the work of Victoria Police, Justice and Corrections staff, and all of our emergency service workers, community and social workers in what they all do every day to keep our community safe. But I particularly actually like to acknowledge the member for Malvern, even though I don't agree with a lot of what he says, including on this bill, the fact that he has had the stamina to stay in here throughout this entire debate to listen to every contribution, I do truly acknowledge. So good on you, member for Malvern. Acting Speaker, all Victorians have the right to feel safe and be safe in their homes, communities and their workplaces. And every day as a government, we're working through our agencies and entities and departments and non-government organisations to help support Victorians to lead safe lives that are free of violence, crime and the fear of crime. That's why since 2014 we have continued to make record investments of more than $4.5 billion through Victoria Police to deliver Victorians the modern world-class policing services they deserve, which has included a $1 billion investment towards new and upgraded police stations, more than 3,600 additional police officers since 2014, $214 million in funding to roll out tasers to all frontline police officers and PSOs, and significant investments and initiatives towards crime prevention and early interventions to address the root causes of crime, many of which the member for Mulgrave actually just touched on. However, along with our investments to support Victoria Police to ensure they have the frontline tools to identify, investigate and combat crime across our local schools, ensuring we also provide the appropriate and accompanying legislation to prevent and deter crime, especially organised crime, which infiltrates and underpins a vast portion of overall criminal activity, is absolutely critical. Acting Speaker, according to the Australian Government's Institute of Criminology's 2020-21 report estimating the costs of serious and organised crimes in Australia, serious and organised crime across the country costs Australians between $24.8 billion up to $60.1 billion per annum. Broken down, the report sets out that an estimated $16.5 billion of that is associated with illegal drug activity, $9.4 billion is associated with organised fraud, $6.4 billion is associated with consequential, serious and other types of organised crime, $4.9 billion is associated with illicit commodities, including tobacco and vaping and the like. $3.5 billion is associated with cybercrime. We've heard a lot of talk in this debate about how organised crime has definitely evolved over the last decades and recent years, and cybercrime is particularly where that is continuing to evolve at rapidly concerning rates, particularly with the evolution of AI, of course. $2.3 billion is associated with the enablers of such organised crime, that is people that are infiltrated throughout the government and non-government ecosystems to allow that type of crime to continue on and pass through. And $700 million is associated with direct crimes against the person and individuals such as the victims. Acting Speaker, while these figures outline the economic consequences of organised crimes on communities, the reality is that the full socio-economic impacts of such serious offending is far more substantial to the businesses, families and individuals who are directly impacted. But also is the costs incurred by government to identify and prevent and mitigate against such crime that we must also take into account. Again, referring to that report, between $16.4 billion to $43.7 billion in total is invested by governments across Australia towards preventing and mitigating against organised crime. These costs incurred are associated with law enforcement, the criminal justice system, other government agencies, the private sector and also individuals in the community to also prevent and respond to such crime. And of course, Acting Speaker, that's why this bill is so important. The bill seeks to disrupt serious and organised crime in Victoria by strengthening Victoria's Unexplained Wealth scheme to better target leaders of organised crime groups. The bill will amend the Confiscation Act of 1997 to strengthen Victoria's existing unexplained wealth laws by introducing third unexplained wealth pathways that better targets unlawfully acquired wealth. The bill introduces a new unexplained wealth order, which can be sought in relation to individuals reasonably suspected of possessing wealth exceeding their lawfully acquired wealth by at least $200,000. And unlike existing pathways, as we've heard, this new unexplained wealth order doesn't require a connection to crime. This simplifies the process and will better enable law enforcement to target individuals, primarily senior figures in criminal organisations that seek to distance themselves from offending. The bill also introduces a new related unexplained wealth restraining order. This is a court order that sets out that no property or interest in property to which the order applies is to be disposed of or otherwise dealt with by any person except in the manner and circumstances, if any, specified in the order. The effect of an unexplained wealth restraining order is to preserve a person's property or interest in property while unexplained wealth order proceedings take place. The restraining order also acts as security for the payment of the debt in the event that the court grants unexplained wealth order. Victoria's existing unexplained wealth scheme currently enables a DPP or an appropriate officer to apply for the forfeiture of the property of a person who is reasonably suspected of criminal activity or who is reasonably suspected of owning property that they did not lawfully acquire. The person with an interest in the property must prove the property was lawfully acquired or it would be forfeited to the state. The threshold for these existing unexplained wealth pathways are $50,000 in relation to property in which a person has engaged in serious criminal activity and has an interest, but there is no threshold for property that was not lawfully required. Although our existing confiscation scheme is relatively robust, there are gaps in the scheme that sophisticated senior organised crime members have continued to take advantage of to the detriment of Victorians, particularly those organised crime group members who distance themselves from direct offending but continue to play a pivotal role in the movement of funds, property and favours in criminal organisations. As a result, the new unexplained wealth pathway broadens the existing pathways in those two substantive ways that I have referred to just earlier. Acting Speaker, the bill enables the DPP to apply for that court order of an unexplained wealth order if there are reasonable grounds formed by a police officer to suspect a person's wealth exceeds that lawfully acquired wealth of at least $200,000. The minimum value threshold surpasses the $100,000 jurisdictional limit of the Magistrates Court. An unexplained wealth order application may be heard by either the County Court or the Supreme Court. However, the Magistrates Court may still hear an unexplained wealth order application if all parties to the proceedings agree by consent. The minimum value of $200,000 is intentionally set as a high bar to ensure that those unexplained wealth orders are targeted towards those most serious cases and reduces the risk of targeting low-level offending or other non-organised crime-related contexts. Furthermore, requiring a police officer to form a reasonable suspicion before an application can be made ensures the applications are only made on a proper basis and that a person that only proved their wealth was lawfully acquired in circumstances where suspicion is reasonable. The unexplained wealth order will be made if a person cannot satisfy the court was lawfully acquired. They will then be required to pay the state the equivalent value of their unlawfully acquired wealth. Effectively, respondents will need to prove it or lose it. This new unexplained wealth pathway will remove the requirement for that nexus or connection to a serious criminal activity. With the time I've got remaining as well, Acting Speaker, I'd like to turn to acknowledge and thank the work of my local Victoria Police members who will be working in many ways to implement various aspects of this legislation in due course, but who work daily to keep the suburbs of Pascoe, Coburg and Brunswick West safe. In doing so, it was an absolute pleasure to welcome our new Marybeck Local Area Commander Inspector Andrew Markakis, who I recently had the chance to meet with, to welcome to his new role and have an excellent discussion about the good work of local police in keeping our streets safe. With an extensive policing and crime prevention background, being a long-time local resident of the northern suburbs, Inspector Markakis is very familiar with the many local community safety priorities of local businesses and residents. I look forward to working with him and his entire team across Fawkner and Brunswick police stations to keep making the community safe. On the 2nd of May 2024, I just wanted to point out that the Rotary Club of Pascoe hosted the 13th Annual Community Policing Award for the Marybeck Police Service Area at the Pascoe RSL. And among the nominees, 3 Marybeck police members stood out for their exceptional contributions. Ultimately, it was Sergeant Dan Cove, who emerged as the deserving recipient of the award, lauded for his exemplary leadership in crime prevention and his outstanding achievements in enhancing community safety. Sergeant Cove and his team focused on volume crime, drug trafficking and antisocial behaviour in areas of priority patrol locations, retail locations and high-rise residential locations across Marybeck over a 7-month period, targeting a range of following crime themes, including aggravated residential and commercial burglaries, theft motor vehicles, drug offences, traffic enforcement, and a total of 106 offenders were processed over this time. The award also recognised and commended the efforts of Sergeant Dan Leach and Senior Constable Kim McCowan, who were duly recognised, underscoring their significant roles in promoting community wellbeing. There's a number of other initiatives that the local police under Inspector Makakis are overseeing, proactive and high visible attendance patrols at priority locations, including Victoria Street Mall off Sydney Road, which I've had the Minister visit as well, targeting firearm prohibition orders, Operation Mosaic, person of interest investigations. And on the 22nd of May coming up, Acting Speaker, the Merri-beg Police will host a community neighbourhood policing forum at the Coburg Town Hall, which I really look forward to attending. Encourage all local residents to attend, and they'll be looking at a range of issues which we'll be talking about around crime trends, crime prevention, young people and many other issues. I commend the bill.